Otherwise, we will not get opportunity to learn from you, sir.
Yeah, we are going in detail. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I am
If you
explaining
want,
to
if
you.
you want, after the exam, sir, after 20 seconds, we can even take 2 lectures a day if you are free, sir.
Yeah. No problem.
One morning session, one evening
Nahin,
session, sir.
of course, subject to my also court matters, you know that.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Of course, sir.
Yeah. अभी आ जाइए 14 पे खोल लीजिए section 14. Section 14
Open.
has maximum illustration, 16 illustration. Please pay attention. And this is a very, very interesting subject section. ये बहुत ही important है. Especially for this is a weapon for the cross examiner, and this is for leading circumstantial evidence, drawing inferences. Once you become a cross examiner, you will enjoy this section. Along with section 8, section 7, 8, 11, सब मजा आएगा. लीजिए आप. Now, facts showing existence of state of mind or bodily feeling. See, facts showing the existence of a state of mind, such as intention, knowledge, good faith, negligence, rashness, ill will, goodwill towards any particular person, or showing the existence of any state of body or bodily feeling, are relevant when the existence of any such state of mind or body or bodily feeling is an issue or relevant. It has to be relevant, otherwise irrelevant fact cannot be invited. Unlike section 11, which is very wide here. So here, when you see that here, you are allowed to lead evidence in respect of existence of the state of mind. Number one, say for example, intention of a party. Intention, knowledge. Number 3, good faith. Number 4, negligence. Number 5, rashness. Number 6, ill will. Number 7, goodwill. Then number 9, any state of body, then or bodily feeling. तो इतने सब चीजें याद रखिए आप. When you are a cross examiner, especially when you are leading evidence, both examination chief, remember this. Now, if you see the illustration, and with the illustration and explanation will clear the picture, and I will give the illustration of the case. A fact relevant as showing the existence of a relevant state of mind must show that the state of mind exists not generally, but in reference to a particular matter in question. So a general allegation or evidence that this man is a cheat, you cannot lead evidence. You have to see, you have to lead before the court that he was convicted in a particular matter for cheating. This is the case number, then evidence is allowed. But you can say that mohalle ke andar sab kehte hain ki he is a cheat, everybody knows. That evidence is not allowed. So evidence must be led before the court of law that he was tried by the court of law, by the court of session, court of magistrate, or there's an appeal conviction hoga inke khilaf. So that is not a general feeling, a specific with regard to that a man was suffering from insanity. Isko eclipsy feeling aati hai. He is a case of kya naam hai, schizophrenic case. So you cannot make general allegation like that. So you must take up the plea that year. Before the magistrate, he was arrested. He took up the plea of insanity, and the court appointed under a mental medical officer under so-and-so judgment. So that particular instance can be quoted to lead evidence here. This was his state of mind. He was suffering from insanity. So we'll come to that. Then explanation to the ecclesia. But whereupon the trial of a person accused of an offense, the previous commission of the accused of an offense is relevant within the meaning of this section, and previous conviction shall also be relevant. Now you will come to know later on the person's bad character is not relevant. A good character is relevant. A bad character is not relevant, good character is relevant. But if a man says I am of a good character, you are allowed to lead evidence of good character, a bad character. So यहाँ पे conviction court में हो गया. When a prosecution take place with regard to commission of the previous offense, it's like a case of a res judicata. There is already a decree passed by Lord in the matter in the previous suit. So the present suit cannot sustain. So similarly, in the present prosecution, the accused is in possession of stolen goods. Huh? Stolen goods, namely, it is his practice to go to the railway compartment, ladies compartment, lift the telephone and sell it to the vendors. And he was been convicted in one of the railway cases commission. I got the proof. In the railway court commission at the trial, the magistrate found 150 mobile phone in his possession. So that particular case may be relevant, but a general allegation that it is his practice to go and lift telephone, mobile phones of ladies and gentlemen, children will not be allowed. So यहाँ पे दो instances हैं. हाँ. What is your question, Ashish?
Sir, we had learned know that whatever the previously that person had done as part of character, that is irrelevant to the court in the new matter. So is this an exception to that, sir?
No, in the character where evidence is not connected here, यहाँ पे conviction हो चुका है, यहाँ पे previous case हो चुका है. See that part of the evidence I will take you under section 53 of the Evidence Act. Under the provisions of section, when you see in 52 के अंदर civil cases में character doesn't come into play. Under 53 criminal cases में previous good character is relevant. 53A says. 54 says previous bad character not relevant except in reply. If the accused takes up the plea that I am a person of good character, then the defense can take up the plea. He is a man against whom several cases are pending. तो बात में आता हूं मैं. ये this is यहाँ पे case conclude नहीं. You can take up the defense when the case is going on. Section 14 speaks of a case where the case is disposed of. Where the conviction or acquittal is recorded. समझे ना?
So this is, sir, for only pending cases.
The cases which has been, see, explanation 1 to show the state of mind, generally reference to a pending case. Explanation 1, a pending case. Explanation 2, the case which has been disposed of, a previous case. Like, for example, for invoking res judicata, what will you show before the court? The case has already been disposed of way back in the year 100 years ago, 50 years ago, by the same court. A decree has been passed against the plaintiff's father. Now the plaintiff is raising the same issue. समझना पे यहाँ पे explanation 2 के अंदर the magistrate has recorded a conviction against the accused person about 5 years ago. Again he is committing the act of stealing, robbery. In the second prosecution, you can lead evidence. My lord, this man has a dubious character. He is known for committing this kind of offense because previously he was convicted on a similar offense.
So if there is a history sheeter, that helps, sir.
History sheeter, provided you have a judgment copy in your hand of the previous conviction. And not just because FIR is pending, nahi ho sakte. Okay. Now let us see illustration. Now illustrations are too many, 16. उससे पूरा मालूम हो जाएगा. पूरा
Sir, Paushali has a question, sir.
Sir, the said previous commission of offense by the accused should be similar to the one he is charged for, or can be anything?
No, it should be similar.
Okay, sir.
It should be similar. Now, from the illustration, you come to know that here. Now, see, A is accused of receiving stolen property, stolen goods, knowing them to be stolen. Okay? He is guilty of stolen property. That's a crime under section 410, 411 IPC. पढ़े हैं ना आपने? Stolen property के बारे में 410, 411 and 413, where the punishment is 7 years and 10 years. Right now? Go back to your IPC and remember it.
Yes, sir.
A is accused of receiving stolen goods, knowing them to be stolen. It is proved that he was in possession of a particular stolen article. So how it was proved? By showing the previous conviction order. समझे ना? Number 1. Then the fact that at the same time he was in possession of many other stolen articles is relevant. as intending to show that he knew each and all the articles of which he was in possession to be stolen. So the police, after raiding his house, found 150 watches a mobile phone in his possession. समझे ना आप? Then the police will also lead evidence to show that here, about 5 years ago, there was a conviction by the other magistrate against him. In that conviction also, he was convicted for the offense and he took a pardon and he sought apology. The court only let him off by imposing penalty. So here you will be allowed to lead that judgment. The police can also say that here at the time of the raid, not only the article which is the subject matter of prosecution, similarly so many other articles were recovered. समझे ना? So offense under section 410, 411, 413 of the Indian Penal Code is made. But you cannot make a general statement. He is a habitual offender. But he is an offender because already he was convicted in a particular crime. Explanation one bars you from telling you a general, leading general evidence, and explanation 2 permits you show the previous conviction. समझे?
Yes, sir. So, but why can't we say he's habitual offender?
General allegation nahi. If he has been convicted 3-4 times, he is a habitual offender. There must be conviction order. Okay.
Okay, sir. And so, what if he says that the goods were stolen was not known to him?
Goods were stolen, not known to him. Then he has to lead evidence. Then that evidence will become under section 11 of the Evidence Act. Inconsistent evidence.
So he has to lead evidence, or we have to lead evidence to prove that
the prosecution has to establish the stolen one, and he has to show that he had no knowledge. So no knowledge, kaun karega? Special knowledge was with him. That special knowledge provision is section 106. खोल लीजिए आप. 106 of the Evidence Act खोलिए. Burden of proving a fact, specially within the knowledge. When any fact is specially within the knowledge of any person, burden of proving the fact is upon him. अगर VT station में, Churchgate station में आपको suppose you are caught ticketless, TT पकड़ेगा आपको. He will ask you ticket, you are not able to prove, isn't it? Here the TT will not prove that you had no ticket. It is within your knowledge कि I had bought the ticket गुम गई मेरे friend के पास थी, छोड़ के आ गया, भूल गया, मोबाइल में बुक किया. So here the prosecution, it is something knowledge within you. समझे ना आप? Similarly, the defense that you had no knowledge, it is something which is known to you. The burden is upon you. You must discharge the burden. Okay. Illustration, that is a हो गया. That is with reference to, because this will also find under 114A के अंदर भी दिया गया है. When we dealt with presumption, drawing inferences, may presume के अंदर you had learned it, isn't it? The court may presume that a person who is in possession of a stolen good soon after theft is either a thief or received from him stolen, unless he account for the possession. So the court may draw the inferences. So rebuttal action is to be taken by the thief. Now illustration number 2. A is accused of fraudulently delivering to another person a counterfeit coin, which at the time when he delivered it, he knew to be counterfeit. Now counterfeit coin delivery, possession is an offense under section 499 A, B, C, D of the Indian Penal Code. पढ़े? It's a session triable case, punishable for 7 years, 10 years. आपने पढ़ा होगा IPC के अंदर. If you don't, just recapitulate it.
Yes,
so
sir.
A is fraudulently delivering to another a counterfeit coin, which at the time delivered it, he knew to be counterfeit. The fact that at the time of the delivery, A was possessed of number of other pieces of counterfeit coin is relevant. So the prosecution can show that this man is in possession of several counterfeit coin. इसके पास जाली नोट बहुत सारे हैं, 500 रुपए के, 100 के, 2000 के. So that will show that here the presumption will be drawn by the court that he has committed the offense. But he will be allowed to lead evidence to show that he had no knowledge about the fact it was counterfeit. Okay, that is a 499C of the government. Then the fact that A had been previously convicted of delivering another person a genuine counterfeit coin, knowing it to be counterfeit. So a previous conviction against him, a court of sessions in Pune had convicted him of the offences under section 489C, 419 for possessing the coin is a relevant fact the prosecution can show.
So what
that will show his state of mind. That will show the existence of the state of mind. That means he the person used to committing offense. So he has got his knowledge and good faith. He himself is having completely possessing knowledge about the fact that it's a counterfeit coin. Boliye.
So what if that money has been demonetized? Like if today somebody was making 500 rupee forgery notes of the notes that were demonetized, would that still be a crime?
Yes, 100%. That does not take away the crime. You have committed the offense, you should be punished for it. And that because demonetization taken place, the offense is not wiped out. Huh?
No. Let's say today somebody made 500 rupee forgery notes of the demonetized currency. Is that a crime, sir?
So wouldn't it be still forgery, whether it was demonetized or not?
Forgery, you're deceiving a person. It may not be counterfeit coin because that note is not valid now as it. Huh? Something
Yes,
which is not valid is not counterfeit. Huh?
Yes,
but
sir.
your attempt to commit forgery can be established.
Yes, sir.
Item number C. A sues B for damage done to the dog of B, which B knew to be ferocious. A ferocious dog story. Sune aapne? So there are many pet dogs and very non-pet dogs, isn't it?
Yes,
have you
sir.
heard of, in the city of Bombay, many people are very fond of keeping pet animals and non-pet animals. Many people keep also animals like such as a lion, they keep monkeys, isn't it? They keep, and in such matters, that is, you have to see the propensity of the animal, whether harmless animal, non-harmless animal. Then it is said that in the case of wild animals, naturally ferocious animals, such as like lion, tigers, monkey, etc., it is not necessary to prove Sainter. Sainter, have you heard of?
It's a Sainter's rule.
Sainter, that is that the defendant knew that as well as aware that the animals were ferocious. He had no knowledge. Whereas in the case of dogs and horses and domestic animals, the Sainter need not be proved here. That is the special damages which can be claimed by the court of law. But if the owner of the dog has said that, if the owner of the dog has said, beware of the dog is under the chain. If it does and barks you, if you go near him, you cannot claim damages. Because you know that the owner had taken precaution, mentioning beware of this dog, beware of the dangerous dog, and the dog is under chain, and you go near the dog and you just play with him and he bites you, and you cannot claim damages.
So you can't make a defense that you are illiterate. So you can't read the sign.
That is a different matter. If that is the evidence you can read under section 7.
But sir, technically speaking, there are certain breeds of dogs that are particularly very dangerous. So even that can be mentioned, right?
Yes, this
Let's
is
say
especially
pit
for
bulls and
claiming damages when a ferocious dog has bitten, and whether the dog is a domesticated dog, whether the dog is a trained dog, untrained dog, police dog, whether the defendant had knowledge about it, no knowledge about it. So these are things when you're claiming damages, whether remote damages should be given, whether special damages should be given, nominal damages should be given. That is the law of damages, which will be under the provisions of Section 73. Then using the famous case of Hadley versus Baxendel's ratio, that you can invoke it. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Then yes, D में आ जाइए. The question is whether the acceptor of a bill of exchange knew that the name of the payee was fictitious. The fact that A had accepted other bills drawn in the same manner before they could have been transmitted to him by the payee, if the payee had been real person, is relevant as shown that A knew that the payee was a fictitious person. So this under the Negotiable Instrument Act, when there are many bogus transactions, many money laundering transactions take place here. You do not know, sometimes bogus persons' names are given here. So when you see that here my money has gone to the wrong person, so you file a suit for declaration that here the transaction is illegal and void, the amount will be returned back to me. So the issue before the court will be whether you acknowledge that the other bills which have been drawn in the past or subsequently, that you have been giving to fictitious person. So what kind of evidence is led in such matters when declaration is sought and when the money goes to wrong person? So money laundering transaction, fictitious transaction, many cases. I used to appear for one of the person, a film actress took money for performing 18 shows. She performed only 10 shows. So the show people came to me to, the matter went in arbitration. They told him, the lady said, you deposit money in the name of fictitious account in Dubai, not in my name. So money was deposited in various different names. These are a hawala transaction. So
Yes,
these
sir.
are things which take place here. Unfortunately, we all know that
Sir,
here. So
sir,
when you
could
acknowledge
we-
about
Sir, can we discuss the Harshad Mehta case also, sir, when you have the time? So
some
we'll
other
at least-
time, after completing the portion, definitely we'll discuss everything. Okay. Here, that is how. Then next is A is illustration. A is accused of defaming B by publishing an imputation intending to harm the reputation of B. So this is a defamatory article which has been written by A to defame B. The fact of previous publication by A respecting B showing ill will on the part of A towards A is relevant as proving A's intention to harm B's reputation by a particular publication, etc. Then the fact that there was no previous quarrel between A and B repeated matters, complaint had a relevant shown so. So in the first illustration, the first case speaks of defamation cases. It can be a criminal case under 501, 502, 503, 504, 505 of the Indian Penal Code, or a suit for damages claiming under the law of tort for claiming amount for malicious prosecution or breach of injury, whatever may be. Two types of evidence are allowed here. Now, the plaintiff, with a view to prove that defendant acted with malified intention, then he will lead evidence here. I mean, his intention was not clean. So he is allowed to lead evidence. He had done previous publication against me too. He wrote in Times of India about me. He is backbiting against me to my friends. I got the cutting in newspaper. He wrote in Illustrated Weekly of India, so-and-so magazine. So all these connected events can be brought before the court to show that the intention of the defendant was malicious towards me. He has indulged in the campaign of vilification, defamation. He entertains ill motive against me. So you are allowed to lead evidence of ill motive, ill intention against B in your examination chief here. At the same time, the defendant or the accused person will lead here. There was no previous quarrel at all. I got to see that we were best friends in the college and school days. We were politicians and eating together, dining together. He can lead evidence here. So two types of evidence are led here by one person and the other person leading evidence in rebuttal. So E के अंदर देखेंगे evidence for prosecution to show intention and evidence by the defense to show that nothing like that such subsisted here. Okay. Then F पे आ जाइए. A is sued by B for fraudulently representing to B that C was solvent. A is sued by B for fraudulently representing B that C was solvent, whereby B, being induced to trust C, was insolvent, suffered losses. So it's like you took a loan from the bank and you gave my name as the guarantor. I am a solvent party. The bank discovered that I am myself a kadaka. There was a decree against me. There was an insolvency proceedings in the High Court, or under the NCLT, I have been being prosecuted. My properties has been seized. There's the official liquidator appointed. So the bank will lead evidence to prove that here I made false statements as regard my integrity as a solvent person, so that evidence can be led to show that here, to demolish my character. Demolish my character. That is how you can lead evidence to impeach the credibility of a witness under section 146 and 153 subclause 5 of the, just open section 146 please. Under 140 is a question lawful in cross-examination. When witness is cross-examined, in addition to question referred to above, tend to, number 1, veracity. Number 2, discover he is a liar in position. Number 3, to shake his credit by injuring his character. And throughout, such question may tend to indirectly criminate him, or might expose a tendency, indirectly expose him to penalty, forfeiture. So the bank will lead evidence that representation given about me that I am a solvent party is incorrect. This man has no credential. He has cheated so many creditors in the market. More than 100 people. There's an insolvency notice issued by the High Court Bombay under the Presidency Insolvency Act. Even the Pune Court, District Court has issued notices and subsequently convicted him under the Provincial Insolvency Act. Then see, if such statements are made by A, praising himself, giving good reputation about me, then cross-examination may under section 155(3), you can expose that man. See 155(3) padhiya aap. Impeaching the credit of a witness by proof of a former statement inconsistent with any part of the evidence which is liable to be contradicted. So in contradiction, you can lead evidence which is all available to you under section 14 to prove that whatever praises I have paid, whatever accomplishment, जो भी झूठ बोल के लोन ले लिया है, about giving my reputation is clean and a solvent party is absolutely incorrect. So that my reputation is totally tarnished. You can tarnish the reputation by leading in by asking questions in cross-examination under 146 subclause 3 and section 155 subclause 3 of the Evidence Act. Remember this, you have to connect this section to that one. 145, 146, 155 are very important tool in the hands of a cross-examiner. Yeah.
Sir, do we have to connect, or the judge makes the automatic connection, or do we have
The
to
judge will not do that. You as the cross-examiner, you have to connect it. If the objection is taken, you tell the judge.
Okay,
the judge
sir.
is not going to tell you every time. Of course, the judge has power. The judge will be listening. The judge normally would like to be a very neutral party. A judge will only take objection when irrelevant questions are asked, something unlawful is asked. But the judge will be enjoying your cross-examination if it is conducted very well. If you are not
Yes, sir.
doing very well, he will pull you up. Then
So
the fact that, yeah, boliye.
he will actually tell me I'm doing a bad cross-examination.
Yes, openly he can tell you, young man, you have not done your job. Please go home and read. Take a date and properly read and come. You should do a job. In many cases, I have seen judges in the court telling that you have not done your job. Please take a date and read and come properly. To many people, So I have been insisting you that read your case and go 4 or 5 hours in the early morning.
Yes,
Read
sir.
your
I
matter.
think we should come and watch you, sir, for at least 10-15 cases. Otherwise,
That is the anybody can do that. You read your matter and go. Without preparation, we all make mistake. We all make mistake. We should learn from the mistake. Okay, ये सब सीखने का. Now example G देख लीजिए, illustration D. A is sued by B for the price of work done by B upon A. A is sued by B for the price of work done by B upon a house of which A is owner by the owner of C, a contractor. Our defense is that B's contractor was C. The fact that A paid C for the work in question is relevant, proving that A did in good faith make over the C, the management of the work in question, so that C was in a position to contract with B on account of contract and not as his agent. So you as a owner of the property, you wanted to do repairs. So you engage me as your contractor. I am your contractor. Then I am engaging some subcontract, some worker लाके देता हूँ मैं. C, D, E, F, G are the workers. So probably I might not have paid the workers. You have paid me because the workers are demanding money from you. You will take up the plea. I have no privity of contract with you. I have a contract with my contractor, Mr. Shah. I have paid him. So evidence to show that here you have paid me will be allowed to be led here. And you can show that there is no agency exists between the owner and the worker. The agency is only between the contractor and the worker and subcontractor. Isn't it? So
yes.
The workers are not justified in demanding money from the owner directly. So even the evidence can be lodged to dislodge him. In case a suit is filed by the workers against the owner, the suit is not maintainable. I have no privity of contract. I have paid the money. There is no agency exists under the law of agency. Why should I pay? So such evidence can be allowed to show before the court of law. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Then H में आ जाइए. A is accused of the dishonest misappropriation of property, which he had found. And the question is whether when he appropriated it, he believed in good faith that the real owner could not be found. This is a very interesting question. A is accused of dishonest misappropriation, which he found it. Now, a property of A, your property, I found in Churchgate Station. So, under the Indian Contract Act, you learn the finder of a good. पढ़े ना आपने? Under the law of bailment. याद आ रहा है अभी?
Yes, a finder of lost goods.
Section 167, 168 of the Indian Contract Act, law of bailment in chapter 9 of the Indian Contract Act, if I'm not mistaken. So remember that, because you have to remember your first year, second year में क्या पढ़े हैं. So the moment illustration आ गया तो you please go back to your first year. Go back to your section and take it out. Then only you understand the meaning of the illustration and section, unless you know कि यहाँ पे क्या लिखा गया है. यहाँ पे लिखा गया accused is dishonestly misappropriated property which he found. So property is found, founder of a good under the Indian Contract Act. That is the law of bailment. You should be able to lay your hand. Open section 168, if I am not mistaken, of the Indian Contract Act. Mila, section 168, right of a finder of a good to sue specific reward offer. Ashish, Mila, na?
Yes, sir, it's open.
What does it say? The finder of a good has no right to sue the owner for compensation for trouble and expenses voluntarily incurred by him to preserve the good and to find out the owner. But he may retain the goods against the owner until he receives such compensation, and where the owner has offered a specific reward for return of the good lost, and finder may sue for the reward and may retain the goods until he recovered it. So recovery, Even if you find the articles of third party, you will find newspaper next day. The finder of my news, my suitcase, which contain valuable item, will be rewarded with 1 lakh. समझे ना? That you can claim it. But अगर चर्चगेट स्टेशन में आपको मेरा सूटकेस मिल गया गवर्नमेंट लॉ कॉलेज में देने के लिए, sir, I came and took the trouble, all the way you pay me about 50,000. That is unreasonable, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
That is not correct. But if I announce some award, yes, if you have taken some trouble on your trouble all the way to come to my place, maybe I may be living in Pune or elsewhere, you had no, then you phone me up, you come, I'll give you expenses and compensation, you can justify it. So यहाँ पे is the,
but as is in some Mori Bibi versus Dharamdas Ghosh, sir, what if you did,
that is
if you
under the
did,
Indian contract में Mori Bibi's case was there, that is a
Yeah.
minors contract is void करके. So यहाँ पे this illustration is based on this principle, finder of a good. So where the dishonest misappropriation is a crime under section 403 of the Indian Penal Code. You remember now? IPC 403 खोल लीजिए जरा 1 मिनट के लिए. So you sell it, you appropriate, you convert for your own use. So you are converting the property of a third person, which you have found for your own use. Then the question is whether when the appropriated believed in good faith that the real owner could not be found. So your contention will be that you could not find the real owner. So as a result whereof, तुमने खुद इसको adopt कर लिया. Then the fact that public notice of the lost property has been given in the place where A was relevant, showing that A did not in good faith believe that the real owner of the property did not find it. So the evidence can be led by the plaintiff to show that the goods which he has misappropriated, he is accountable for it. And I had given a public notice, so he will be allowed to lead notice of public notice. That to show that he has a knowledge about it in the area. Times of India के अंदर में notification दिया, notice. And he's an educated man. He could not have not said, I not done it here. Then the fact that he knew, had reason to believe that the notice was given fraudulently by C, who heard the loss of property and wished to set up a false claim to it, relevant showing the fact that A knew of the notice and did not disprove. So the defendant can take up the plea. The publication of notice on the part of the plaintiff is illegal because he had come to know I got the suitcase with him. That property I have taken, it actually doesn't belong to him. And the real owner has dead and gone, is no more. In a plane ka blast mein, train ke blast mein, he died. And this man having come to know I discovered this suitcase or maybe valuable item, he has falsely given the newspaper advertisement showing to be the owner and awarding the property. That you can lead evidence. That you can lead evidence. Both the parties can. That is called evidence in rebuttal can be led. Evidence in rebuttal, that is all collateral evidence to demolish the assertion that the publication of the newspaper was given in the newspaper. So two types of evidence are possible here. A, proving that here the finder of the good is under obligation under the Indian Contract Act to return to me. Under the provisions of the section 403 of the Indian Penal Code, he cannot appropriate for himself, not convert it. Number two, both is committing the commission of the offence under 403 and a civil wrong under the provisions of the law of tort under the contract here, which he cannot do, which is bound to return to me as a owner of the property. The law of bailment says that here he has got the implied permission to return to me, implied duty to return to me, which he has not discharged. So B will take up the plea that he is not the real owner. A will lead evidence, I had given newspaper publication. B will take up the plea that publication is fictitious. So these are all types of, to show the intention, to show the malified, goodwill, ill will, intention, negligent, rashness, ill will, motive, the body, the state of body thing, bodily language of the various person you can take up. So when this is a potent weapon in the hands of the cross-examiner, as well as when you're leading examination chief, you should be able to lead this evidence. Please note that section 14 is a very vital section. Next, H के बाद I. A is charged with shooting at B with the intent to kill him. In order to show A's intention, the fact of A having previously shot B may be proved. Huh? A is charged of shooting. That is to show that here, in the past also he has committed attempt to murder me. I had lodged a FIR. The case is pending. The case is pending. This time also he is trying to kill me. There is a previous enmity. I have filed a civil case for encroachment of property, or he is having an evil eye on my wife or my daughter. The relations are strained. We are neighbors. He is a person of bad character against whom previous case. He wants to eliminate me. So my pending case and the FIR will show that here his intention and motive is to eliminate me. So evidence can be led to substantiate in this case here, in this illustration. Then J पे आ जाइए. A is charged with sending threatening letters to B. Threatening letters previously sent by A to B may be proved by showing the intention of the letters. So here, threatening letters is an offense under section 506 of the Indian Penal Code, a criminal intimidation. So a student may take up the plea, a girl student in the government law college or university will take up the plea that my neighbor, my student who is a college, he keeps on writing me letters, love letters expressing his love. And he says that if I don't reply back in the affirmative, he will kill me, he will harm me, he will throw acid on me. That letter. Then again, such act is repeated, you may take up the plea that he is now attempting to shoot me, or he is wanting to do harm to me. This has happened in the previous occasion. I had lodged a FIR with the Marine Line Police Station. The case is pending against him in that regard. So the factum of the pendency of the case and the factum that such attempt was made, a criminal intimidation was done in the past, can also be led evident to show his motive, his preparation, his conduct, his intention, his knowledge, his ill will, goodwill, or the existence of body language or bodily harm which he proposes to do by virtue of the provision. But just you cannot make a general statement by examining a college student. Yes, he is in the habit of writing such letters to various girls. That's a general statement. But a particular instance, yes, in the past, last year in the month of February 1999, he wrote a letter which I drew to the attention of the principal. I lodged a complaint. The matter is pending. So that particular incident relation will be important, and evidence can be led. You can prove that, and you will be allowed to prove the intention of the matter. Okay? For proving a charge under section 506, 506(1) and 2 of the Indian Penal Code, which deals with the criminal intimidation. Okay? Threatening a person with dire consequences. Threatening that I will wipe out your family. Threatening that I will disfigure your body or your face if you don't love me, if you don't reciprocate me, if you become my friend. This kind of unreasonable, uncharitable soliciting love is actually not permitted in the eyes of law. But such things go, there are many such cases. You have seen a girl coming from out of the country, Bombay city ke andar, railway station mein the accused and goes and put acid on her. She dies. Unfortunate. Such cases are rampant. How frustrated young lovers do this in many matters. If a girl rejects the proposal and they kill her, they injure her, they cut their body off pieces. These are all frustrations of young people which you have seen, and that is how the illustrations are based on this. Yeah. This next is okay. The question is whether A has been guilty of cruelty towards B, his wife. Expression of their feeling towards each other shortly before or after the cruelty are relevant. So here, married couple are in strained relations. They are not able to see eye to eye together. The marriage is not cohabited. Now take for example the case of Sharad versus Manju, which we had done, the Bombay case. Sharad Birdi Chand Bhatt case, state of Maharashtra, where circumstantial evidence was led Bombay High Court, Session Court convicting him, and Supreme Court, unfortunately for him, letting him off. But there were evidence, Supreme Court shows that here the girl Manju had committed suicide on account of the various letters. But the letters show strained relationship between the husband and wife, will show the cruelty under 498A. When there's a 498A is one of the charge under the Indian Penal Code. You can show that the letters written by the girl to the family, to the friends, and nearby relation, how the husband and wife were treating each other. Such evidence is allowed by the court of law under this provision. Okay. Then the question is whether A's death was caused by poison. Statement made by A during his illness to his symptoms are relevant fact. So he must have told the wife, I am going to enjoy a meal with my friend or with our opponent who has filed the case. He was in a good state of mind. He was hale and hearty. But after he goes and has food and he dies. Then poison was administered. The toxicologists give evidence here that food poisoning was found here. So the evidence to show that here, before having dinner, before going there, he was in a good state of mind. He went for jogging, the wife will say that. He did his yoga exercises. All evidence of the children, the family. These are all to show that here he died on account of the food poisoning, which has been with ulterior motive added by the opponent with a view to kill him. The question is, what was the state of A's health at the time when assurance on his life was effected? Life insurance. Then the statement made by A to the state of health as to the near time in the question are relevant. So Mediclaim policy ke andar, you take a policy of 10 lakh, 50 lakh, 20 lakh. Normally the insurance company, before giving you the Mediclaim, will ask you to submit medical report. Your BP report, medical report, X-ray report, submit karenge. Your reports were fine. So at the time, suddenly, suppose after 6 months, 7 months, 1 year ke baad, you become ill, you get hospitalized, you want to claim money. The hospital says, sorry, we cannot give it to you because these are all pre-diseases. Evidence can be led to show that you have been hospitalized. You made a statement, you had a pre-existing disease, heart disease, lung disease, which you had suppressed. So your statements made to the hospital or the hospital mates to the authorities, they will be used against you. Samjhana? To show the good condition or bad condition. Or you may take up the plea that my insurance company is rejecting wrongly. In fact, I never had any such pre-disease. In fact, I went to the hospital. It was a sudden act here. Suddenly my BP shot up for the first time. I never had any other problem. The sudden heart attack, it is happening for the first time. So these are the evidence you can lead before the court of law in such cases. Then N. A sues B for negligence in proving him with carriage for hire not reasonably fit for use whereby A was injured. The fact that B's attention was drawn on the occasion to the defect of a particular carriage is relevant. So Bombay city ke andar Tanga Godi hai, people, you take your children to the Taj Mahal hotel. This is the Tange wala. He sits with you. You and your family, 3-4 brothers, sisters sat together and went. So the first batch of people reported to the Tanga wala, bhai, your wheel is not functioning properly. There is no equilibrium between the two wheels. It is likely that it will fall. Please rectify it. So without rectifying it, after finishing the first trip, second trip, another group of people here taken. Then as a result, the wheel came off. There is injury to the children. So the suit was filed for damages for claiming negligence. So the evidence of the previous batch people who informed the Ghoda Gadi wala that your wheel was not functioning would be relevant. To prove the negligence on the part that he was knowing it was within his knowledge. Despite knowing that the wheel was not in a good working condition, and he is taking sawaris as a result whereof the accident has taken place. And this was a deliberate act. He was fully knowing about it. And the previous group of people who are my immediate relation, my brother's children, my sister's children, they had boarded the Ghoda Gadi, and despite reporting him, they had gone 8 years, and immediately he took the second batch and he shouldn't have done 8 years. So as a result, he is bound and liable to pay damages for negligence in the matter. So based upon again the same principles of Hadley versus Baxendale's case, remote damages or whether immediate damages. Injury non remota cause set proxima. When you see the Evidence Act के अंदर, Indian Contract Act and also Law of Tort के अंदर, Evidence Act में, this jargon you'll find here, maxim, injury non remota cause set proxima. In law, it is the proximate cause that counts and not the remote cause. So when you see the law maxim of the well-known author, any author, or even you go on the Google में check करेंगे आप, what is this meaning, you'll come to know that here. So that dictum will be applicable here. Then next is the fact that B was habitually negligent about the carriage, let off hire is irrelevant. So a general statement cannot be laid down. You cannot examine 100 people. He's always negligent, cannot be laid down. A particular incident evident can be laid because that is what explanation 1 to section 14 says that here. Fact relevant showing the existence of relevant state of mind must be not of generally, but reference to a particular matter in question. So the fact that he had an earlier savari of your brother's children, and your brother's children reported to him, rectify the error which he had not done, is a good piece of evidence. But whereas 10 people, spectators, have been watching and telling, yes, he is in the habit of committing negligence and doing it for the last 1 month, 2 months, that statement is not receivable in evidence. Okay? Illustration 8 is what. Then O. A is tried for the murder of B, intentionally shooting him dead. The fact that A on the other occasion shot B is relevant as showing his intention to shoot B. So evidence can be led that here the mens rea on his part, the motive, preparation, conduct, he had committed earlier the offense of attempt to murder under 307, which was registered. Now he has actually killed him this time because he was harboring animosity. That evidence can be laid. But the fact that A was in the habit of shooting at people with intent to murder them is irrelevant. But you cannot say he's a shikari, he's just all the time shooting his gun in the air, here and there, rapidly, trees ko marta hai, janwaron ko marta hai. That kind of general evidence will not be permitted. Okay? Evidence must be to a particular incident which has happened and not generalized statement. A general statement of evidence will not be allowed. Now the last illustration P. A is tried for a crime. The fact that he had said something, he said something indicating an intention to commit a particular crime is relevant. That is a section. The fact that he had said something indicating the intention to commit a particular fact is relevant. But the fact that he said indicating general intention to commit crime is irrelevant. So anything generally is not acceptable, only particular, because that illustration, explanation 1 tells you of the Evidence Act. That is very clear on that point. Okay. Anybody want to ask any question? What is the time, Ashish or Gitanshu?
Sir, it's 8 o'clock, sir.
We'll stop for another 5 minutes, then we'll take up section 15, 16 together. Okay?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
And unless has anybody any question? Anybody any question in section 14?
No, sir.
Okay, no problem. Take 5 minutes. Okay. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Take 5 minutes break. We'll come back.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.